Greetings, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland, and behind me you will see the house where Lillie Langtry lived in the 1880s into the 1890s, when it eventually became the Cadogan Hotel. So Lillie Langtry is best known for having been the Mistress en titre to Edward VII, but back then he was still Prince of Wales. Lillie Langtry, she was born in Jersey in 1853. Despite it saying 1852 on the blue plaque, that is a mistake. And her father was the Dean of Jersey, as in the most senior Anglican clergyman on the island. Not New Jersey. The island of Jersey is very close to France, but it's politically connected to the United Kingdom, is not part of the United Kingdom. So there's the states of Jersey as in their parliament, and they're internally self-governing, relying on the UK for foreign affairs and defence. So she grew up bilingual in French and English. There was much more French speaking in those days, Jersey. Indeed, her surname was actually originally Le Breton. She had 6 brothers, no sisters, and she's tutored by her brother's tutors, so she had a better education than most girls would have at the time. Anyway, she married a Mr. Langtry when she was 20, who was a bit older than her, well, only slightly older, 26. He was an Irishman and very wealthy. He owned lots of property. I don't think he actually pursued any profession as such. So she moved with him to England, and they lived in Southampton for a while, and later London. And there are a number of properties that still stand where she lived, both here, Wilton Place, and Southampton, and indeed Manhattan. So I don't think she had any children with him, in fact. So she was noted in London society. Her brothers had married well, and she was presented at various upper-class parties for her exceptional pulchritude. She was someone of a vivacious intellect, a fantastic conversationalist, and very droll. So this reached the ears of Edward VII. So he was heir to the throne. Edward VII was married to Princess Alexandra of Denmark. And she soon began an affair with Edward VII. Edward VII, who never once committed fidelity. Edward the Caresser, as some people called him. So she carried on with him for about 3 years, and then he ended the relationship with her. But despite that, she traded on his name for the rest of her life. Why did he terminate the relationship with her? Now, possibly it's because she turned 30, was no longer attractive to him, or about to turn 30, or she also became pregnant. But by whom? Most people believe it was by Prince Louis of Battenberg, as in father of Lord Mountbatten. Lord Mountbatten always maintained that Lillie Langtry's daughter was sired by his father. Anyway, she moved to Paris briefly, where she gave birth to her daughter Jeanne. But there's a possibility that it was another one of her paramours, or the Earl of Shrewsbury. It might have been that Edward VII was miffed that she was not exclusive to him, that she had a number of lovers. Anyway, she worked her way through a lot of very affluent men, spent her time inspecting their ceilings, and her husband didn't seem to mind this overmuch. She'd also got along well with Alexandra of Denmark, the prince's wife, Edward VII's wife, who thought that she was an all-right mistress, and she just accepted her as a lot. Boys will be boys. For a prince or a king to have affairs is entirely acceptable, but not for a princess or a queen, because if she becomes pregnant, that baby will be assumed to be the child of her husband. That would be an attempt on the throne. That child could one day inherit the throne, alter the line of succession, so we simply can't have that, and just accepted her fate uncomplainingly. Anyway, so she was a very wealthy person, as you can see. She borrowed extensively, but she was spending more than they could afford to repay, and she thought that Edward VII was going to bail her out. But then the relationship was over. What to do? So those who'd lent her money were then started hammering on her door, demanding that she repay it. She was a good friend of Oscar Wilde, the renowned playwright. She knew everybody who was everyone in high society. He suggested that she take to the stage. So the first time in her life, at the age of 29, she acted. First of all, at Twickenham Town Hall, she acted in She Stoops to Conquer. It's by an Irish playwright, but Oliver Goldsmith as well, about an upper-class woman who falls in love with an upper-class young man, but he discovers he's only attracted to working-class women, so she has to pretend that she's working class, put on the accent and the mannerisms, and is always getting it wrong. Therein lies the comedy. Anyway, so she was also a noted Shakespearean, playing Lady Macbeth and As You Like It, A lot of Shakespeare's oeuvre she appeared in. So she toured theatres in the United Kingdom and became a celebrity. What else? She was a vaudevillian too. Then she travelled to the United States, acted there. She was very extensively reported by the press. Artists were queuing up to draw her, to sketch her. Some of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood that they were getting on by this stage, but she became their muse. So she was famous all through her 30s. Her star began to dip a bit later on. She divorced her husband in 1897. Obviously knew all about these affairs, doesn't seem to have minded very much. Even though there was syphilis was something to worry about in those days, a bit like AIDS of its day. It's not like today when obviously antiretrovirals we can keep under control. HIV, syphilis, there was nothing could be done about it. Then she married an American. She became an American citizen, spent most of the rest of her life there. I think she only had the one daughter. I'm not sure where she died, in fact, but that is Lillie Langtry, or Jersey Lily as they sometimes call her, since she came from there. She's depicted in a number of films. So, a late Victorian beauty. So it was meant to be a very moralistic, judgmental time, but there were louche members of the upper orders who carried on like this. Especially hypocritical for Edward VII, as he eventually became a supreme governor of the Church of England, meant to be sort of leading by example, showing the right way to live. There we are. That's enough about Lillie Langtry. Toodaloo.